Welcome to the NJCPA panel discussion here at Kean University. We're very, very excited to be here, so thank you all for attending. I did want to, before we go ahead and get into our panel discussion, I did want to just take you through this presentation that I put together, a little bit more about the CPA exam. How many of you are planning on taking the CPA exam at some point in your professional career? Okay, so that's a lot of hands, the majority, so that's a great thing to see for sure. So I don't know if you're familiar with the requirements to sit for the CPA exam here in New Jersey. All states do have different requirements. In order to sit for the exam here in New Jersey, you do need 120 credits and you do need a bachelor's degree, but that bachelor's degree can be in any field of study. In addition to that, of those 120 credits, 24 credits must be in general business courses, and then 24 credits must be in accounting courses. So just make sure that you are thinking about that while you are planning out your next couple of years of study here at Kean to make sure that you meet the requirements for the exam. In addition to that, these are the list of the 4 parts of the exam. There's the odd section, the reg section, the FAR section, and the BEC section. We're going to go into a little bit more detail. We'll get a kind of the insight from the panelists on what they thought was the most difficult section of the exam, what was the easiest section of the exam for them, how they prepared for the exam in these different parts. But I did want to let you know on the reg section of the exam, starting January 1st. So when all of you guys are going to be taking the exam, since you need a bachelor's degree in order to sit for the exam anyway, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will be testable starting January 1st of 2019. So make sure that you are studying that material in your classes or in and out of your classes. Just make sure that you familiarize yourself early on with those requirements. Okay. In order to be licensed here in New Jersey, you do need 150 credits total. So you can get those 150 credits, so those are 30 additional credits. You can get those through a degree program, so a master's degree program, but they can also be outside of a degree program. So they don't necessarily, you can just have, as long as you have 150 credits total, you can still have a bachelor's degree and be licensed here in New Jersey. But in addition to that 150 credits, you do need 1 year of work experience under an active licensed CPA. So in this work experience can be obtained only after you've completed your bachelor's degree. Okay? The NJCPA is here for you and here for you to help you as you navigate your professional career. So anything you can do, or anything we can do to help, please reach out. We are always happy to help and help answer any questions you may have regarding the CPA exam, regarding career development resources, if you need help with interviewing skills or resume building or anything like that. Obtaining an internship, scholarships. So we do have a scholarship program that I'll get to in just a little while. Oops. I did want to let you know of a resource that the AICPA puts out on a regular basis. The AICPA puts together CPA exam blueprints. And these blueprints, it's a 100-page document. It's very, very comprehensive. But this 100-page document really goes into detail. It breaks down the 4 parts of the exam and also the topics that you are going to be covering on each of those 4 sections of the exam percentage-wise. So I would definitely encourage you to check this document out. You can go ahead and print it out. A lot of the review courses develop their curriculum around the content that's in the AICPA exam blueprints. So I would definitely encourage you to take a look at those early on if you can. In addition to that, we also have CPA exam sample questions that are on our website. So if you go to the Become a CPA tab on njcpa.org, we have questions pertaining to all 4 sections of the exam. So if you're looking for a specific section of the exam that you need assistance with, or you're just kind of reinforcing those concepts, I would definitely encourage you to check these questions out just to kind of help you prepare. The scholarship program. So the scholarship program is, we offer $6,000 scholarships to juniors entering their senior year, as well as seniors entering a grad level program. So if you are going on for that 5th year to obtain those 150 credits that you need for licensure, the NJCPA scholarship is a great way for you to cut down on some of those graduate costs. So our deadline is January 7th of 2019. So you have plenty of time to go ahead and get started on writing that essay and putting your resume together, We do need an official transcript from that. If you have any questions, please contact the society. We're happy to help answer any questions you may have. But we do have scholarship cards in the back of the room, so make sure that you pick those up before you leave today. And we did talk about free student membership a little while ago, but if any of you are not NJCPA student members, just make sure that you visit njcpa.org/join to complete that free membership application as soon as possible. That way you'll have access to all of our resources that we provide you in terms of scholarship, internship and networking opportunities, free Excel courses, and more. So does anyone have any questions? Okay. I'm sure you guys are all very, very excited to jump into our panel discussion. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and take any questions that you may have here in the audience about the CPA exam, about the licensure process, about our panelists' internship experience. Any questions that you may have, you will notice me after you ask questions. I will repeat the question to the panelists before they answer, just to make sure that those that are watching from home can also hear those questions. So I'm going to go ahead right now, and we'll start with Jordan. But I'd like the panelists to introduce themselves, just kind of talk a little bit about where you work now, your current position, and any other interesting facts you'd like to provide.
All right, so I'll start off. I'm Jordan Ghaffari. I'm a senior accountant at Witham Smith & Brown, Red Bank office. I primarily do audit and a little bit of tax here and there just to help out. Busy season all year round, obviously. Doesn't matter. And that's it.
I'm Lauren Naples. I'm a senior manager in Witham Smith & Brown in the Red Bank office. Jordan and I work together. I've been there for a little over 11 years, not counting my internship, which I interned while I was a senior at Kean University. And I've been there ever since. I specialize in the not-for-profit education niche and also the consumer products. So I go from schools during this time of the year to breweries, distilleries, security companies, all sorts of consumer products that are offered. So I have a variety of clients. I never have a dull day, and I get to meet a lot of awesome people. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie Mullen. I work at Wilkin & Guttenplan down in East Brunswick. I'm a senior audit staff. I've been with the firm for about 3 years this fall, not including my internship that I did while I was at Monmouth University. I work primarily in real estate and nonprofit. I do a lot of recruiting as well, so I feel like I see some familiar faces from last time I was here. But yeah, love my job, love my firm.
Hi everyone, I'm Joelle Viscardo. I work for KPMG in our Short Hills office. I work in audit primarily for financial services clients, so mainly community banks. I've been there I'm going into my 4th year there. I also interned there. That's it.
Hi, my name is Jenny. I also graduated from Kean University, so I'm also an alumni. My experience, when I was a senior, I interned with a public accounting firm for 2 years. It was a very good experience for me to build a foundation in accounting. During that experience, I learned that I'm very interested in financial services industry. So I decided to go to a banking industry, and I spent 1 year at Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corp. It's a financial reporting role, but after 1.5 years, I was tapped into a position at Goldman Sachs. So I currently work at Goldman Sachs as an associate, working like a internal audit type of function.
So thank you. So yeah, we just appreciate all of you being here and taking time out of your busy schedule to answer questions and just to help these students as they navigate their professional career. So let's go ahead and we'll open the floor up for any audience questions that you guys may have about your CPA exam or about the accounting profession or CPA credential or internship opportunities, just any questions you might have.
Okay, so did preparing for the exam, the CPA exam, did that help you when you actually got your job? Like after being, what do you call it? After getting your license and stuff?
So preparing for the exam?
Did taking the exam prepare you for your job?
Okay, yeah, sure. So the question from the audience was, did taking the CPA exam prepare you for a career as a CPA or in the accounting profession?
Be honest.
Well, I think, did anyone become a CPA? Did you guys study and get your exam passed before you started?
I did.
You did?
So I can talk a little bit about that. I will say that, in my honest opinion, a lot of what I do at work was taught to me once I started working there. But I think it's important to have that foundation of the underlying accounting that's a part of studying for the CPA exam in order to understand and excel at the things that you're being taught at work. So I would say, I mean, I can't put a percentage on it, but I would say that it's more of that foundational knowledge that will really help you along the way.
I would say, so I kind of did half and half. I did 2 of my exams before I started working full-time, and then 2 when I was working full-time. I don't do any taxes, so reg was the worst for me, but for audit at least, I have to say, after I took the audit exam, it did help me, like, as a first-year entry level, just know, like, basic terminology in audit. If anyone here works in audit, you know there's like a ton of different lingo that you have to learn, and it could be very confusing. So I would say in that regard, but I agree. You were pretty much taught everything you need to know on the job once you're hired. So.
And I can say from a totally different perspective, I was when I started in my firm, it was staff 1, staff 2, semi-senior, senior. I waited until I was a senior to honestly study for the CPA exam too, because I was concerned with my life and everything that was going on outside of my career rather than focusing on what was inside of my career. And I watched other people that were staff 1s pass the exam, and I was like, I'll do it one day, I'll do it one day, I'll do it one day. And then I couldn't become a manager without having that CPA exam passed and those 3 letters behind my name. So I one day then decided that it was time, and the knowledge that I learned while working, as you said, while you're in the profession, you also continue to learn. You know, it's not just what you learn in the books. Helped me study for my exam, but I also lost the tools that I knew for how to study, because I was out of school for several years now at this point and wasn't studying. So I had to relearn how to study. So I would say to do it earlier on while you still know how to do that.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with Lauren. I did study right after college. I didn't take it seriously, and then when I finally got the job, I was like, wow, you know, I gotta put my foot down and, you know, study. But for me, I think the job actually put a foundation for the exam. So it's kind of like the reverse of what they were saying, because everything on the job actually is in the books, slightly different language, but you know the general concepts are there.
Yeah, I may also say if you maybe take 1 or 2 parts of the exam, and then when you go for an internship, you may feel more confident because you already reinforce what you learn at school when you take accounting 101, advanced accounting, managerial accounting. So like normally people will take FAR first because FAR is very close to what you learned, and it's really a foundation of other 3 parts. Especially when you do audit, you really have to understand books and records, how the ledger, how the journal entry works. So I think FAR is really a foundation. If you can take that first, and then if you work in audit, of course what you practice will reinforce what you learn, so you are happy with your exam.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Great. So any other questions? Yes.
Which is better, or which is easier, to study for the exam and take it while in school, or do it after when you're working?
Okay, so do you think it's easier or better to take the exam before you start working, during working, while you're still in school? What would be the best time, would you say, to take the exam?
Before you start working. 100%.
Unless you have a job that will give you an incentive or a bonus
Yeah.
when you pass your exam.
Yeah. I would say if some people, like I did it half and half solely because I did my master's and I started working during my master's, so I couldn't physically handle studying and working in busy season and also taking a master's course or program. So I would say it was easier to do it even with master's courses and everything. It was easier to just treat the exam like another class than it was to then study while working full time. Even in the summer when the hours are lighter, like the last thing you want to do is study after work. But it's doable, totally doable, but not fun.
Also, just a side note, I know we were talking about the incentive programs for passing the exam once you start work. So I did the exam before I started work, but because of the fact that I already had an offer from my job, I was still able to receive that incentive. So it's not like you can't get the bonus if you pass it beforehand. As long as you have your offer in hand, at least for my firm, they will honor that incentive.
It's definitely a question you should ask, you know, while you're going through your interviewing process. If you are interviewing, even if it's just for an internship, you know, ask what the incentives are for having your CPA or passing it, you know, while you're a staff. I know at our firm, the longer you're there, it decreases.
Yep.
Right.
So it's incremental.
Yeah.
So you want to, I mean, it's more incentive to pass it as soon as possible so that you get more money in your pocket.
I think when I took the CPA exam, I actually applied for scholarship like Baker. You know, Baker is a CPA preparation. So I applied for their scholarship, and they actually gave me half scholarship. I end up just pay about less than $2,000 for all the materials, and I fully utilized those materials for my exam. But I also did a half and half. I may say that after you have a job, it's much more difficult to take the exam because you have busy season and you wanted to do your best. When you have internship, you want to get a full-time offer. So definitely, if you have the opportunity to take the exam before you take any job, I definitely encourage you to do that.
Any other questions? Yes.
What CPA review courses did you guys use? I know you used Becker, you just said.
Yeah, that's a good question. We get that a lot. Yeah, the question was, what CPA exam review course did you use, if any?
Sorry. So I started with Becker. I passed one, and then that expired. So I went to Ninja and Surgeon. So I basically used them all. My favorite was Ninja because it's more condensed. And they give you like the notes, and you rewrite those notes, and then you know all the information sticks. So from like an outlining perspective, definitely a Ninja. Question-wise, I think they were all the same.
I used Becker, and I started with an actual on-site course at Monmouth University. I think it was 2 nights a week or whatever it was, and that personally didn't work for me. Then I did the self-study. And then I continued on, and I also incorporated Ninja notes into mine, which helped kind of summarize it and put it all. So go through the in detail notes and review, and then also the outline for the review process.
I use Becker. I only did the self-study, like the online video, and it really is just preference on like what works best for you. But I liked that because you're able to like go back and review videos, and it's like someone like talking to you, so it's like the same idea as being in like a classroom setting, but you could do it like whenever you want.
I did Becker as well. I did, it's a kind of unique program for if you're gonna take it over the summer. It's called the Fast Pass program. So basically I went to class every day over the summer, every weekday from 10 to 2. And we had live instructors at that class. And basically the way the program works is you go every day, 5 days a week from 10 to 2, and then they'll teach a section of the book, and then that night you're responsible for going home and doing the practice questions for that section. So it's very intensive. Like, you'll take the class and then you might be doing the problems till 8 or 9 at night that night. It's just a full day of work. But they do that for one section of the exam, so they might do that for 10 to 12 days. Then they leave you a gap of like 4 days or so for you to cram and then take the exam. And that's kind of how the structure works for that program. And I took them all 4 back to back, and then I had them all pass within like 2 months. So if you can dedicate that large amount of time for 2 months or so, I think it's worth it.
So you passed the CPA exam in 2 months?
Yeah. But I was using every available second of every day. So you really have to just, if you're willing to just put your head down and do it, you can.
And I would second that with, you get what you put into it. It's not something that you can just be like, I'm going to go and I'm going to pass this test. It's not going to happen. So you have to put in the efforts to get it. It's doable. Obviously, we are all CPAs all sitting up here, but it does take the work and efforts to be put in on your end too.
I just want to add, I think I took the regular one. So for Baker, I also took the life course, but I did that actually during the busy season. I went there every Saturday. It's a 4-day course. If you want to find a study buddy, like someone who can study with you, I think that's a very good option, because you can find other people sitting there that taking the exam, and then you can exchange your experience and some of the any tips. So I think if you really skip like the intense program, maybe you can also try one of just the regular schedule. You can do that every Saturday or Sunday.
Thank you.
I think you had a question.
Yeah. I'm currently a sophomore accounting major, and I'm starting to look at internships. But what would you recommend, like internship-wise, or like the next step for somebody that's not like super deep into it yet?
So from just a general standpoint, what would you recommend in terms of internships for someone that may not have the upper level coursework or something like that, that's just kind of starting out in their accounting career?
I can just talk about what I did as a sophomore. I know a lot of the firms now do a discovery type event when you're a sophomore, so you can go for 2 or 3 days and just see the office, learn a little bit about what they have to offer. And since they're only 2 or 3 days, you can actually do a couple of them and see a couple different places as a sophomore. So that's what I did, and I really enjoyed that. And then hopefully, most places don't offer internships until you're a junior, but then you'll have a little bit of a better idea going in as a junior what you might be looking for.
I think with us, we offer internships as long as if you're interested in accounting and you're serious about it, get yourself out there and put yourself in that position to show them that you're interested, and it can go a long way for your future.
I know for our firm, so our internships are typically juniors and seniors. But we have a ton of students like yourself that are sophomores that are looking to get their foot in the door early on. So like she was saying, we do have things that we call career days at our office. And I know for us, it's a huge thing for students to come to, because it's kind of like a mini interview. And then usually, although it's open to all grades, for sophomores especially, you're kind of at that point ready to start interviewing come that fall, because we usually have it in May or June. So then, when interviewing season comes around, it's almost like we already know about you. You're kind of stand out from the crowd. So yeah, we usually try to push for those. But just any firm, it's just great for you to be able to see what fits for you and what's out there.
Maybe I can add a little bit. So my first internship, actually, I asked my professor, and normally if you talk to your professor, some of them, they know people who work in industry, so that might be one of the resources you can consider. And also in terms of because my company is not a public accounting firm, so their internship is a little bit different. They have a very, they start their internship much earlier. For example, now they already finished the interview for 19 internships, so it really depends. Probably the best way is you can get some information of normally what is the time they're looking for internship, and after you get that information, then you can try to connect to people, maybe any friends or anyone and make that connection. That's really the first step.
Thank you.
What other questions do you have? Yes.
How long did it take for you to get approved to sit for the exam?
Ooh, how long did it take for you to get approved to sit for the CPA exam?
I think, so I graduated in May. I applied, I guess, the end of May, and I sat for my first exam end of July, so I'd say like 4 weeks at max. Yeah, that was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, I think I had a similar timeline. I graduated in May. I was calling the school every day saying, send my transcript as soon as it's ready, send my transcript, because I wanted to make sure that I could have everything in line before I sat for that first exam. And I sat for it the weekend before 4th of July, so I think even maybe a little bit faster.
Yeah, and to add that, read the list of what's actually required for the application. I know some people, they think everything's in, but really they're not. So definitely get organized, know what you need to get, and then go from there. So you're like the quarterback of, what's going on, basically.
So if anyone here have any international background, like what I did is when I applied, because I finished my college in China, so I have to get my transcript from China, so it's a little bit complicated. But the good thing is that at that time, actually, I actually asked NJCPA. I think they helped me a lot, because it's really complicated. Like I have to send a form to the school in China. They have to mail the form back, and not to me, but directly to I think it's NASBA. So if you ever run into those kind of situations, you can reach out to me, or I think NJCPA is also a very good resource.
And we also have the steps to taking the CPA exam. So if you haven't picked that up in the back of the room, go ahead and pick that up, because those steps are going to walk you through the application process and just kind of give you a little bit more detail on the different steps to applying to sit for the exam. So yeah, you can pick up any of the information that's in the back of the room before you guys leave. Make sure that you get all of that. Any other questions? Yes.
So when you guys were studying, what was something that you guys gave up in order to get that discipline so you could take so you could focus and take the exam? And what are some of the studying habits and techniques that you used?
Okay, yeah, good question. So the audience question was, what are some of the things that you gave up while studying for the exams, kind of keep you motivated? And in addition to that, are there any study tips that you can provide that helped you along with the CPA exam studying process?
Tell your friends you'll see them when you're done. If they're your real friends, they will know that they will understand that you have this obligation and this personal want to do this, and they will understand and they will be there when you're done. If you don't know it the day before, you're not going to know it, so don't try and cram it all into your head that night. Don't stress yourself out. What I found was helpful, I had flashcards and I read through casually throughout the day on the last day, and that was like my superstition or my study tip, and that seemed to help me after I had studied, kept my calendar of study habits throughout the time frame. But you have to be serious about it.
I would say I don't think I gave anything up. I guess it depends on like the point of your life that you're going through. I know for me, it was right after college, so a lot of my friends had graduation parties. And to me, it was something like I did not want to have to miss out on. However, that just meant that I had to cram it in like Monday through Sunday or, until the party. So it's definitely doable, but I would say just, you're allowed to have a day or so during the week to not study, but as long as you make up for it in other ways. So to me, that was like the one thing that I didn't want to give up. So it's kind of a twist on the question, but I would just say you have to definitely stay motivated. It's an expensive exam. It's a long exam. To me, the money was probably one of the biggest factors that I didn't want to have to keep paying for it if I failed it. But also just organization and just find study habits that work for you, because I'm sure what I did is totally different from what you did, and so on. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, did you want to say?
Go ahead.
I was working while I was studying, so I'm an early person, so I got to office around like 6, study from 6 to 8:30, and that was basically my bulk of my studying for that day. I would go home, eat dinner, and then, do a couple questions, like 50, 60 questions. and that's it. Because I like that break, and it was more productive that way than to go out, get home, eat dinner, study for 5 hours while you're tired after a full day. So there's all trade-offs.
Yeah, just finding what works for you. And I'm not a morning person, as he can attest to. I studied after work for 4 hours, 6 to 10 or 5:30 to 9:30 was my time frame, and then I picked my Friday nights was my night off, and I studied Saturdays during the day, Sundays during the day. But you have to really find, like I said, a calendar or a schedule that works for you and stick to it.
I think one thing what I did is I took notes, so I have a big notebook for each section. What I did is I usually will woke up early and I will study for an hour or so and write all my notes, because by writing your notes it's kind of reinforced for you just by reading. And then one thing I think you shouldn't do is don't study for 1 day and wait for 2 days and then come back, so you normally will forget what you just learned. Trying to keep it consistent. If you study today, maybe tomorrow or the next day, just to go back, and it will help you to kind of reinforce what you just learned the day before. So don't study for 1 day and then you skip a few days. So that's one thing you shouldn't do. But taking notes for me, I think is very helpful. And also, my habit is I wanted to study with my friends, like a study buddy. So I go to Starbucks every day, and almost the whole table of people there, everybody have a baker, so I know they're studying for CPA exam. It kind of, you feel like you have, it kind of you're motivated. So that's what I found very helpful.
Yeah, I'll also say, just another study tip, I was big on the notes too, but basically what I would do was I would take all my notes and then I would take some of the practice questions or exams with my notes in front of me and see, was I passing those questions, was I getting them right? Because if I was getting them right with what was on this sheet, then all I needed to do was memorize what was on that sheet. So that's kind of how I worked it, but everybody's different. I prefer to study alone, actually. I just would stay in my room for hours and hours on end. So you have to find out what works for you. I also think it's helpful once you take an exam. So the way the program was designed for me, I didn't get any results back until I was already taking the last one, I think, if I got results at all. So it was hard for me to see if the way I was studying was working because I hadn't gotten any scores. But if you are spreading it out a little bit more, you'll be able to see when you get your first exam score back, is what you're doing working? And then you can adjust accordingly. Yes?
What is the overall cost to take the CPA exam?
Okay, what is the overall cost to taking the CPA exam?
I'll say for me it was zero. My firm paid for everything. So I think there are incentives. I'm sure you guys
Which are different
have some
now than when I first started. I took the exam along. I've been at my firm for 11 years, so when I took the exam, I think it was probably slightly cheaper than, not much. I mean, I wouldn't say like hundreds of dollars, but Becker alone is a couple $1,000s, and all in with the fees, and each exam probably costs at least $250 to $300 per part. With that's just not the $75 fees that you're paying for it's called a notice to schedule your test. So, I mean, I would say your ballpark, if you're getting the Becker review course, probably about $5,000 to $6,000 at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about 5,000.
Yeah, which is a lot. So make sure you ask during the interview process, will the firm that you're talking to pay for any of those fees, and just make sure that you're aware of what they have to offer so that you can take advantage of.
And like I said, I didn't study seriously the first couple times, so it cost me more than just one time. I'll just leave that there. Do I regret that? Yes, and I would change it in a heartbeat if I could, but you can't. So make smart decisions on the first try.
And then also just a reminder too that once you pass the first section of the exam, You only have 18 months to pass and to take and pass the remaining 3 sections of the exam. So just keep that in the back of your mind because that first score that you take, or the first exam that you take, those scores could expire, and that would require you to apply all over again for those and spend additional fees in taking the same exam that you have already taken.
Did that happen to any of you, that it went right above the 18-month mark and you had to retake the first section?
So the question was, for any of the panelists that are here today, did any of you go beyond that 18-month mark where any of your scores expired?
Not us, but I have friends.
Yeah.
I have a couple of friends. It's very painful because you have to redo what you have done maybe a year ago. And also another thing to mention is there is a 3-month window. Basically, you can only take the exam the first 2 months. If you failed, then you have to wait for the next window. For example, if you took the exam in January, the next window starts from April, so you have to wait until April. You cannot take that twice in the same window.
Oh, okay.
I think if I remembered correctly, I may have been up against a window because my last exam got pushed back because I was supposed to take my last exam that I did not have passed the Wednesday of Hurricane Sandy. So my last exam got pushed back over a month because of the situation with power. So I think I may have, if I hadn't passed that last part, I may have been in that situation, but thankfully I did, so I didn't have to lose a part and go through that restudying and retaking of that test.
I have a question. If you pass like 2 parts, do you need to pay like again for the 2 more parts that you need to retake?
So the question was, if you pass 2 parts, do you have to pay for the additional parts that you take?
Each part is a different fee. But you don't want to schedule, unless you're taking a fast track and you're only going to take 2 parts in the next 3 months or however you schedule it out, you have to pay when I took it, I think it was $75 to schedule it in addition to the fees for the exam. So you don't want to schedule all 4, not be able to take it in the window you anticipated, and then you have to pay again. So you might only want to do 2 at a time, 1 at a time, whatever works for you.
I believe the NTS is for 6 months. So they say like to schedule whichever comes first, 6 months or how many exams you can take. So I typically usually did 2 a time because to me that was like the only amount I could take at 6 months.
Yeah, also just a reminder, the steps to taking the exam in the back of the room, we also have a fee schedule in there, so you could see for each section of the exam what it would cost in addition to the application fees and the fees for the notice to schedule. So that way we have it all broken down for you. Do you have a question?
Yeah, to suffice the 150 credits, would you guys recommend doing like a double major or like a master's in accounting or an MBA?
Yeah, so the question is, how would you recommend getting those 150 credits? Would you recommend double majoring, or would you recommend getting a master's in accountancy, an MBA, and kind of explain a little bit more about how you obtained the 150 credits?
I think it really depends on your interest. So what I did is I actually did a master's degree. The master's degree can only give me 34 credits in accounting and the business. So what I did is I took some accounting courses and other business courses from other schools to surpass the credits required. But if you wanted to take the MBA program, I think it really depends on like what is your goal and what do you want to do in the future. It doesn't necessarily that you have to take the MBA program to get a CPA license.
I did the 150 in 4 years. I'm not sure if they have a credit limit here, but I just took like the maximum amount of credits each year because when I was doing my undergrad, I knew I didn't have money to get a master's degree after and do that extra year. So it is possible to do it in 4, and I had no AP credits going in either. So I just crammed it all in and it ended up working out. And I have a double major, but no master's degree, so.
I did a 5-year program and got my MBA. So I have a master's degree that got me to the 150. It's not a master's in accountancy. I know a lot of people or a lot of students are doing that now. My college actually didn't require you or allow you to take it if you were an undergrad accounting student because it was all the same classes. Me personally, I didn't think that the MBA would be as beneficial if it is to me as it actually ended up being to me. It pretty much broadens your horizon, especially as an accounting student. It's really just your life's accounting and public accounting, so it's nice to have some other skills. Again, it's total preference though, like what works for you if you financially, like what's going on in your life, because it is another year of school, so some people I know really just like to get the credits out of the way at a community college. But yeah, totally up to you.
I'm trying to think. When I graduated here, I don't think they had the 5-year program, and I still don't know if that is something that's offered now, which if it would help you and you don't want to go back to school, do the 5 years if you're able to. So I think I graduated here with maybe 124 credits, whatever the normal bachelor's degree was, or 127. I think maybe I accidentally took an extra class one semester. So I needed a pretty decent amount of credits. So for me, I went back to Monmouth University and got my master's while I worked. So I was a night student and went over the course of almost 2 years and obtained my master's after. But that also meant the licensure process is also different because you can't be licensed. So even though I passed my CPA exam in 2012, I wasn't licensed as a CPA until 2015. So I passed the exam, but because I had to obtain 150 credits in order to be licensed, I had to wait for that piece.
Yeah, and for my 150, I switched majors a couple times. So I did graduate with over 150 with just a bachelor's. It's fine. I had all the requirements for the accounting. That made the process easy. So I graduated, took my test, and then I was licensed right after I passed. So it wasn't bad.
Yes.
So if you do pass the exam, is there a time limit for you to get the extra 30 credits that you need?
No. You keep it for life.
Well.
So yeah, so the question was, so if you do pass the exam, is there a time limit for getting those additional 30 credits?
No. But once you're a CPA, you have to do what's called continuing professional education, which is a requirement. So I said he says you keep it, but you have to keep up your continuing professional education credits to keep your license.
Got it.
Yes.
What were some key factors that made you decide to pursue a career in accounting?
So key factors that caused you to pursue a career in accounting.
I'll start. So you think of accounting as just good at math. So I went into high school, I took a couple classes. I'm like, I could do this. It's not that bad. And then, when you get to college, it's more in depth. It's not just math. And then I also know, like, being a CPA, job security, there's always going to be a job for you. And just the lifestyle. Like it's flexibility. It's if you want to work on your own, you could. If you want to work for a big company, you can. Want to do private, so there's a lot of options being a CPA.
I didn't want to be a CPA when I went to high school. I actually always, when you're 5, you want to be a ballerina. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a teacher, and it was because of my high school teacher. I think I was a sophomore, and I was in her typing class, and she said, "Oh, I'm coming out with a new elective next year. I think you should try it. I think you'd be good at it." And I said, "Okay, I like you, so I'll take you." And here I am today, and I actually previously wrote an article for the Society of why I became an accountant. It was all because of my high school accounting teacher.
So I took accounting in high school, just kind of on a whim. I think the class was like 5 kids. It was really, really, really a small class. No one really ever took it. But my dad is also an accountant, so growing up, I was never like, I need to be an accountant when I grow up. So I feel like I didn't even really understand what he did until I took that class, and started maybe like asking questions like, oh, like, do you do this? Does this actually like happen in the real world? But yeah, I just liked it. I'm organized. I'm, very type A, so I feel like it just fit me personality wise in high school. And then I actually had no idea like what the life of a CPA was in high school, and then not even until I was like a sophomore or junior in college. So it's good that you guys are here and finding out about it, because it is like a really great lifestyle. I know you probably hear about all like the crazy hours, but the benefits and the perks of the off season are outstanding. I literally love my life.
I did not take any accounting classes in high school. I went into college as a finance major, and it wasn't until I took my first accounting class as a sophomore that I realized, same kind of thing, like my personality just fits with accounting. Like I actually just really like accounting.
It's fun.
So I mean, that's how I ended up here.
So I think when I was in China, I was majoring in education. I meant to be a teacher, and that's also my parents wanted me to do. So since I moved here, I spent some time to think, what can I do? And then I took one accounting course. My first accounting course was managerial accounting. It was not easy, but I think I'm very good at it. It kind of motivated me, and I started to think maybe I can do accounting. At that time, the only thing I know is Big Four and a CPA. That's the only two words I can associate with accounting. And then I told all my professors I want to be a CPA, but they say you haven't taken any accounting courses. But my professors are very, very helpful. And it's funny, from then I learned that there was NJCPA, there was a scholarship program. So I applied for the scholarship program. It's very nice for NJCPA to offer me a scholarship and expose me to an environment like a lot of professionals. They're in different practices. So I was very, very inspired by the people I met. That's why I wanted to be a CPA. There is another fact is actually like our company currently have a new CEO. I remember one thing he said is everybody should know accounting, because accounting is not only bookkeeping, but you can do a lot of things. It's a foundation, because you understand how the world, how everything works from economic perspective. Even like our company is not a public accounting firm, but for other people, they're doing business. They have to understand how other companies run the business. So it's really a fundamental. It's a foundation for you no matter what you do. You can do consulting, you can do audit, you can do tax, and you can do strategy. So it's really a foundation, and I'm glad that you're pursuing this profession.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question. Even after passing the CPA, does grades really matter from college? Because that's what I'm struggling with right now.
So do grades really matter for your college CPA?
After passing some of the CPA exams?
Yeah. Yeah, so after passing the CPA exams, do your grades or does your GPA really matter, really come into play?
I would say absolutely. And I'll say that for two reasons. One, I know that personally, my firm monitors your grades throughout, and they have revoked offers before if someone's grades fell below what they had initially been when they extended an offer to that person. The second reason I'll say it's important is because I think that your classes are providing a huge base of knowledge for what's going to be on the exam. So personally, like I'm positive that I didn't learn everything that I needed to know for those exams from Becker, and there's no way I learned it all in 2 months. So I think a large portion of what I was able to remember for those exams came from my classes and not so much from Becker.
Yeah. Well, it's not my accounting courses that I'm having a problem with, it's my MGS, my management courses. Those are the courses I'm really having trouble with. And that's what's really, messing up my GPA right now.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
I mean, I would say, you just do the best you can, and get through it. And I personally felt like all of my classes actually ended up helping me on the CPA exam, not necessarily just the accounting courses, because there are other pieces of it where you'll need to know about business law or just other aspects that, you know, when you least expect it, it might help you out.
And I can say from I help with the interviewing of the interns in our office. We all kind of make a collaborative effort on it, and we do look at it. It might not be the one thing that sticks out on the resume, but we do, look at it and make comments on it. So it is something that we do.
I think maybe I can add is if your GPA is still above 3, and then if you got an interview and you're concerned about your GPA, you can explain to them what you're good at, and maybe the one course you failed, that's not something you're very good at it. But if you can just explain to them why, and I think people will understand. But at least try to maintain your GPA above 3. That's like our company, the requirement.
I have a strange question. How are tattoos viewed in accounting? I have like a sentimental one over here, and I've heard that they could like revoke job offers, or you have to like keep it covered.
So how are tattoos viewed in the accounting profession?
I'd say as long as it's covered. If you have it on their arm, just wear long sleeves. Definitely, if you go to clients, wear long sleeves. They don't want anything showing when you go to clients. Office is more relaxed, but
I would say a good portion of our professionals in our office have tattoos, but they are covered, especially in, like when we go to clients or a work function. But it's not the end all be all of your career. I have 5 myself, so it's not something that you would know, because I am conscious of the fact that I am a professional, and not all people are in our age group, so it's something to consider.
I would say, as long as they're covered. I feel like a few students have asked that myself and one of our other interviewers, and we usually say as long as they're not on your neck
or your face.
Or your face. But obviously clients, interviews, that's different. You're going to have usually a suit on, and you should. But the office is typically more relaxed. Again, it's more like as long as you don't have like a Mike Tyson tattoo or anything like that, I think you're going to be okay.
Same at my firm. I second everything that they said.
Yeah, I think public accounting firm, because you represent your firm, and it's a representative profession, so usually it's more formal. I know there are some company try to lose the dress code, but still has to be appropriate.
Yeah.
Go back to what you were saying. Can you guys describe what your life is as a CPA? I can't honestly picture it, because I'm still struggling picturing what I'm gonna do. Because I do it in class and I see it, I'm like, I still can't believe this is what I'm gonna be doing. What do you guys do? On season, off season, before, afterward? Walk me through.
So
You guys
describe
are different. You guys are all different, so I know it's probably different, especially I don't know.
Online.
I think he's directing it towards you, so I think you should answer first.
I want it from everybody, because everybody goes off from different firms, and I know Goldman Sachs is really big in the news, especially when I found you guys got a new CEO.
Yeah.
He's a DJ, right?
Yeah, DJ.
That was so big in the news. I don't know. I feel like it's different in different places. I feel like you all have a different lifestyle, especially outside of work. How you have to present yourself.
But he said one thing: accounting is important. You have to know a few things. Accounting is one of those.
So really quick, the question was just describe your life as a CPA.
I think maybe I can share my experience when I was at a public accounting firm. As a CPA, you know that you're trusted by your clients, and what you're doing, you may have a lot of challenges, because that's part of your job. You help your client, and they might have a lot of issues to run a business. They might have cash flow issues. So really, your role is to provide advisory service and audit or tax services to your client. So even if it's a very good feeling. You feel that your client trusts you and you can help them. And being a CPA, you also hold that professional standard. You want to be ethical, don't commit any crime, and you want to always keep learning, and you want to be the one that the go-to person. Yeah.
I mean, just at a personal level, I feel like my day starts. I wake up at 5 a.m. So a majority of my day happens before I even go to work. And that's kind of how I like things, because sometimes, I mean, you will have to work late. And you never know. Some days a manager might show up and you might be at work till 8 o'clock. It does happen. So that's just how I work it for myself. I like to do things that if I have to, pick up the house even, I try to do that before work. Because of the fact that we're out at the client every day, and sometimes things pop up or people show up, or if the CFO walks in the room and decides he wants to talk to you for an hour that day, that's an hour that everything else is pushed back. So you just have to be flexible, and the way that I find that works best is just by taking my personal time before work as opposed to after it.
So working at a mid-sized firm, I'm actually mostly in the office. I do go to clients, but it's definitely not every day. Maybe it's a few times a month. They're all pretty local, which is nice. I don't get up at 5 a.m. But we also, I'm sure, I don't know about the other firms, but so we can kind of come to work at any time we want and make our own hours. So for me, I'm like an 8 o'clocker. I usually get up anywhere between 6 and 7, again, depending on the morning. Sometimes I want to go to the gym, sometimes I don't. So it's really, again, depending on just like my mood, I guess. It would be a little different if I was going to a client every day or if I had to be in at a certain time. But since I have that freedom to kind of not rush either to beat traffic or be in the office, unless, of course, we had a meeting or something, my morning is very stress-free. My day is typically different every single day, which is, again, why I really like a mid-sized firm, just because I can get bored very easily and I just change the pace. There, again, will definitely be times where I just don't plan on it, but I end up staying in the office until 8 o'clock at night because either something needs to get done, people stop by your desk every other hour, it feels like, or they call you out of the blue and say, hey, can you help me out with this? And then, just like you said, your day kind of just gets pushed. But that can happen any day, even in the off season. But I would say the work-life balance, especially in the off season, is really rewarding. I can work from home whenever I'd like. In the summers, we have summer Fridays, so the office is closed at 12. No one's ever there. I know for me, the fall is my slowest time, so that's why I'm really involved in recruiting. So this is recruiting season, so at colleges all the time, and it's great, different type of work to fill your plate when busy season is almost around the corner again. Yeah.
So I like the fact that our life is flexible. At Witham, we're allowed to work, wherever. We basically can work wherever there's Wi-Fi, or wherever we need to. Personally, my boyfriend lives in Cape May, New Jersey, so I spend a lot of time traveling on the road, which enables me, this flex time enables me to, if I need to work from down there, or if I need to come in because there's traffic and it takes me 2 hours to get to work on a Monday morning, the flex time, the flexibility is there. As a senior manager, I have open time off, so I'm able to utilize my vacation days when and if I need to. I technically have 2 busy seasons, if you think about it, because I am busy during tax season, even though I'm an auditor, and I am busy now because of the deadlines with not-for-profits and ERISA benefit plan audits. The flexibility is there, so that's what makes, I think, the career optimal, where you can really work from wherever you need to. The benefits of the off season and the time off, and being able to take vacations if you want to, or take time off. Or we also have summer Fridays. We don't close at 12, we close at 3. But it's still, it gives us time off where we can go enjoy some of the weather in the summer with our family and friends. So, the flexibility, and Jordan said it before, the flexibility is there. I'm not a morning person, so I don't get there early, but he's always the first car parked in the parking lot, so it gives you that. So I guess it all depends on what you're looking for. My days are never the same. Because of the level I'm at, it's slightly different than what it used to be, but I still do go to clients. I wouldn't say I'm there every day, but because we're a medium-sized firm, we're not at clients as great length as I believe you are, so we get to see more clients throughout the year, but I do spend probably, I guess, I would say 50-50 office and client time, so your days are never the same.
Yeah, so to piggyback on the flexibility, I am at the office before 7 every single day. I do get all my personal, I go to the gym, eat breakfast, everything before that. But then I also leave, basically whenever I'm done for that day. If I have extra work, I'll stay. If not, then, I'll go home. Typical day, I'd say I love busy season because there's so much work that you could just, you check off the boxes. So like I have like my sticky notepad, so each day at the end of the day, I write down what I have to do the next day. And it just keeps you organized and on track, so you don't click through Yahoo or, get distracted easily. We're our own boss. That's how I think of it. So yeah, we have bosses, but typically, like if you want to get the job done, you're gonna get the job done. Pass it to her, and then it goes from there. But you're the first line of defense as a staff, senior, and everything as efficiently and effectively possible.
Yeah, the flexibility is there, but you know what's on your plate that you need to get done. So however it is that you make that happen, it's really the ball's in your court kind of thing.
Yeah.
How critical is it to land internships at big firms while we're still in school? And just from your experience seeing interns, is there something that we should be doing that can set us apart from other interns that apply to accounting jobs and accounting internships?
So the question is, how critical is it to obtain an internship at a large firm while still in school? And is there anything that candidates can do to set them apart from their competition?
I would say, so an internship is really important. Most of our entry-level hires are right from the internship. So we really stress that if any student who is either graduating or hasn't had an internship and is asking for a full-time job, we try to push them if they're willing to do the internship. Having said that, we have had grad students, people that have graduated that have never had an internship before, intern with us. So we don't shy away from that at all. And that way, it's also not only is it good for us to see if you fit for us, but it's also a good way for you to see if you even like us as a firm. Because again, it's really preference whether you fit in with a big firm or a mid-sized firm, small firm. So again, I would say no matter what, an internship is probably the biggest experience that you could get going into the industry. To set yourself apart, I know for us, for internships, if you did land an interview, we're really big about personality. We're kind of already viewing your grades just to make sure that you're, have somewhat decent grades. But overall, like, we know that we can teach you anything during our internship, accounting-wise. So as long as we can have like a conversation, it's very, it's formal as an interview, but it is very informal. It's supposed to be more like a conversation. So I would just say, just be yourself. It's just an interview. If you have any, or if you're going on any, the worst thing you could do is, kind of shy and stone up, because they don't really get to see who you are.
I'd like to add, think of it as it's a dress rehearsal. It's a 1, 2, 3 month dress rehearsal that you're there every day, and we're taking it in and we're observing you, and are you willing to put in the extra efforts to learn? Do you ask the questions? Are you excited about it? And I don't want to say oh my God, I'm so excited. You don't need to come over and show that, but are you listening to what we're saying? Don't be afraid to ask questions. And also the interviewing process, come in with questions. You know, not just like what's your day look like. You know, you can ask them about like, because I like when they ask me like what I like to do on the weekends, because I don't want to, you know, I want to know more about you other than I want to be an accountant and I'm studying for the CPA exam. Like, okay, good. Well, what do you do on the weekends? You know, about you. So are you a good fit for us? Do you fit in with our culture? Will you fit in with all of us? Because I think, you know, because we spend so much time with each other, there has to be somewhat of a camaraderie amongst the group, and that we all get along. So we kind of look for that, you know, that along the way too. We appreciate that you're going to school for accounting. We appreciate that you're studying for the CPA exam and you're excited about it, but we also want to know who you are as a person. And from a personal level, just to add, I never even thought about an internship when I was in college. I was working basically full time after I left here every day, and to help my family out. And I was approached by, I guess, the president of the accounting department while I was here, or the head of the accounting department while I was here. Filled out for the New Jersey Society application for their scholarship. Got their scholarship. Went on an overnight trip. My resume was sent out to Witham because they were a sponsor of the event. I was contacted for an internship, and I have never left. But while I was an intern, I was willing to put in the extra hours. I was there later than some of the staff people. You know, I wanted them to see who I was and that I was dedicated and I was willing to learn and put in the extra time, so that would leave an impression on them on who I was and what I was willing to do.
Yes.
Earlier on, it was mentioned of continuing education. How often is that? Is it every year or every couple of years? And two, what are some of the perks we can expect when we start working in accounting?
So yeah, how often do you have to obtain CPE credit to maintain your license? And what are some perks of the accounting profession or as a CPA?
So it's a 3-year license. So your license expires every 3 years. You have to get 120 continuing education for those 3 years, and I think, was it 20 every year, at least 20 every year. So you could do 40, 40, 40, or like 20, 60, you know, doesn't matter, they're flexible there. What was your second question?
Oh, and it also depends on, I don't know if you guys work on, you know, if you work on certain things like single audits, you need specific CPE in addition to the regular CPE that you would get. Luckily, and I'm sure you guys working for a public accounting firm, they basically hold in-house CPEs for us. So as long as we do what they're offering that seminars, the webinars, we don't really have to worry about our CPE credits, but it's something that's very important because they don't really give you much leeway if you go over the triennial period, and it's something that you don't want to lose once you pass it. And what was I don't remember this.
I'll say, I think the second question was about the perks, and ironically, for us, a perk is that we don't have to worry about our CPE credits at all. So my firm holds a national training every year, a regional training, where we're, you know, flying to Orlando or wherever, and we're taking our CPE credits there with all our friends. So that's definitely a perk in my opinion. And I've never had to worry about, you know, counting credit hours or anything like that. I don't know if anyone else has any other perks that they want to talk about.
I personally like OTO, open time off, so I don't really have because like I said, my significant other lives so far away, it's nice to enjoy. He lives 2 miles from the beach, so I'm a beach person. I like to take off days during the summer, so I think that's a perk of just being in the profession, having vacation time offered to us. I think that's one of the biggest perks. And I'm sure you guys have other perks that you wish.
I would say, so probably similar concepts. So we have unlimited PTO, which is pretty awesome because you just really just use it at your discretion. But again, it's pretty much the same at every firm where it's really just on you to get your work done when it needs to get done, and then like playtime kind of comes around that, and you can kind of schedule that out based around your work, which I find is really nice. I like being able to make my own schedule, especially if I know I have things coming up or I wanted to take off. You know, I can look at my calendar and say, oh, okay, I want to take off that Friday. I'll just make sure I have this stuff done by that Wednesday. So it's not like someone's telling you, you know, as you move up, you're allowed to make those calls yourself, which I find is nice.
We're also dressed for your day, so we could wear jeans every day in the office. We don't dress, most of the guys don't dress in suits every day.
Polos, jeans.
And if our clients are also in jeans, they don't care that we're, you know, wearing jeans to their office as well. So that's another perk.
So, how would you compare working for a small firm compared to a large or medium firm?
How would you compare working for a small firm to a mid to large size firm?
I'd say, well, when I started, we were smaller, but like you could touch all different areas. So we could do audit and tax and learn pretty much everything, all industries, and then you could specialize later in your career. Probably at a bigger firm, she could probably tell you what's going on. But I think you know, you're more focused on one area. You don't get the full broader picture. I guess. I don't know. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I can just talk a little bit about, so I work at a large firm, but my office is one of the smaller offices in Short Hills. And then within that office, we have our banking audit practice is maybe 40 people or so. It's not very large. So I just think it's important if you do work at a larger firm to kind of find that specialization. And you're not going to get lost there as long as you take charge of your own career. It's not like, you know, I don't feel like a number at all. I participate on like a lot of boards and for volunteer activities and for recruiting. So once you start doing those things, you start to get to know a lot of people and it starts to feel a lot smaller. So I would just say if you do end up at a big firm, just make sure that you're getting involved and, you know, taking charge of your own career rather than you don't want to get lost in the shuffle.
I think maybe I can say is I started from a small accounting firm and then I moved to a global bank and now Goldman Sachs is big. So my experience is when you work at a small firm, you have very good learning opportunity because you can get involved in everything. They only have limited resources, so you can volunteer to help with every engagement. You can lead all the engagement, so it's very good hands-on experience for you to learn. And then when I moved to a big company, I do feel that it took me some time to adjust because the company is so big, and that means you're a stakeholder. You have more stakeholders and the work in different departments. You do want to be very considerate when you talk to them. But the benefit is the big company that do have a lot of other opportunities for you to learn. Like for example, Goldman Sachs, we do have something called GS Talk. That means they'll always bring a lot of people, like the CEO of Microsoft and some other very, very interesting people. They can share their knowledge, their experience. So that's one of the benefits you have. And also you can lead any kind of, you can take any initiatives. You can even run a committee and you can organize any event. So one of the big culture at my company is we have catch up. So we have a floor with Starbucks there, and you see people catch up every day. The reason people catch up is you want to know people. You want to build a relationship before you work with them. It will make your life much easier, even though you probably don't work with them now. But if you had any kind of personal connection, and then in the future, if you work with them, they will help you. So that's a big culture. And even like our team member, I set up a catch up with like 6-7 of my team members like once a month. It's just fun to understand what other people are doing and any kind of feedback. So every company is different, but like I think the big companies, you don't want to get lost. You want to know people around you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had an internship over the summer. I was basically doing AR collections. I felt like that wasn't enough like I wanted to learn more. How do you find a well-rounded internship? Like, cause I found out Indeed, like just randomly signing up, and I just got one. But how do you find a well-rounded internship?
Yeah, so maybe share your experiences a little bit on how you found your internships. And the question is how do you find a well-rounded internship?
It's hard for me to answer that one because I didn't really look for mine. So,
I would say in being in college, the biggest thing you could do is just talk to as many companies as you can. I know for at least public accounting firm internships, you're probably at least going to see either audit or tax, hopefully. Some you'll see both. I know we show both of our interns audit and tax no matter what. But it's really just being able to talk to as many different companies as possible to see what really fits for you and what you're looking for. So career fairs, anything like that. And if there's any like a meet the firms type event where you can just get to know individual firms. I know it's really overwhelming. I honestly didn't go to like any career fairs in college. So, I can only imagine what it's like to try to find a company that works for you. And luckily Wilkin just kind of fell in my lap. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, also, so like I was mentioning before, I think those discovery programs where it's just 2 or 3 days to see a firm are really helpful. And also, so our internships at KPMG, we do winter internships and we do summer internships. And I will say that the summer is usually extremely slow for us. So sometimes it is kind of hard to find new work or interesting things for interns to learn over the summer. So I would just make sure, I don't know if, so I know some schools have like a program where they build the winter internship in, but if that's not the case, maybe even just talking to who you're going to be interviewing with, seeing when their busy seasons are. Do they offer any sort of internship extension? So maybe when they're really busy, they might want you to come back for 4 hours one night a week or something. I don't know if any of your firms do that, but sometimes we do offer extensions as well during that busier time. So just make sure you are looking for those opportunities, and it might be during a time where you might see a little bit more.
Definitely do the career fairs. I know I personally didn't, but I know from just helping out with the interviewing process and recruiting within our firm that, we're there, and I know a lot of other firms are. So just go there and get to know the space and the professionals that are involved in the space and see, they're going to give you pamphlets and provide information about them. And then you can go home and do your own research and see what may be a good fit for you. What services do they offer? What are you looking to do or learn? And then, you can even contact them and say, what would it be that I would be learning on an internship if I sent my resume and an application in for one? I just wanted to see if this was something that would be a good fit. So don't be shy about it, inquire about it, and then, you'll never know what you're going to find out.
I think one thing I can add is recently I started receiving a lot of LinkedIn message, and people just just send me a message saying that I'm a coming graduate, that is my major, and maybe it's kind of like they will give me an introduction of who that person is, and they will say if there's good time, maybe we can have a catch up or have a phone call. Sometimes I think I will try my best to help them, because sometimes as a profession you do feel that you have been through that stage. It's not easy, and you really will try to help them. But don't be discouraged if you didn't receive anything, because some people will help, some people may not. It really depends, but you may meet some people that are willing to help you, and I believe a lot of people that are willing to help you. So by making that connection, and then the next step is, I know people will do some coffee catch up. You can maybe go to the place and just try to understand what they're doing, not saying, I'm looking for an internship, but more just build that relationship, and then later on, if they have any opening, any opportunity, and I remember that person, and then they will connect you, and maybe you can get the internship.
We have less than 5 minutes left. So does anyone have any last minute questions? We can probably take one more. No last minute questions? Okay, well, we'll be here for a little while if you do have any questions, just breaking equipment down and things like that. So I did want to thank you all for attending, so then both here in person and watching at home. Thank you again to our panelists for sharing their insight into the profession and their taking of the exam and their internship experience. So any of that is greatly appreciated. But like I said, there is information in the back of the room on steps to taking the exam, our scholarship program, so make sure you pick up one of those cards. A membership application, so if you're not members of this society already, like I mentioned before, student membership is completely free, so make sure that you complete one of those forms and before you leave today, that way we can sign you up as a student member. Thank you again.